all kinds of wild blueberries and coconut and papaya and avocados and apples, bananas, sweet potatoes, dates, all your greens, your cilantro, your celery, flax seeds, hemp seeds. There's all kinds of other things that you can always put in your body. So, think about some of these things that you're doing to yourself. Nobody's doing this to you. You're doing it to yourself. And if you want to have a happy life, you want to feel happy, make your stomach happy. You are what you eat. And if you're not happy, don't blame somebody else. It's your own fault. So, think about it and learn about it. And if you get a chance to get that book, it's called, or just go online, it's called Medical Medium, medicalmedium.com. And he's on Louise Hayes Monday night at 5 o'clock on a radio program. There's all kinds of things that you can learn from him and ways you can learn, get what you need. So, and one of those big things he talks to you about, if you anybody have heartburn or indigestion a lot, celery juice is one of the best things because it helps clean that system out. So first thing in the morning I get up, have my lemon water, which Hamid Bey always says you do in the morning, and then I have celery juice, and then I have my breakfast. So, do these kind of things. Keep your body going. Keep yourself happy. Keep yourself, in tune, because that's how you're going to become a light of the world. Start at home, within, okay?
Thank you, Barb. When she started, she's the primary cook in our family, and when she started cooking these healthy foods, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh no, I'm going to eat all that crap. But what's happened? The Anthony William cookbook, he has some amazing recipes, and Barb's been really experimenting, and she makes this awesome pie. Now, the crust is made with pistachio nuts and dates. And then the pie filling is blueberry, which is my favorite. And it's just an amazing dessert, which we would normally think of as, well, you really can't eat a whole lot of pie if you're trying to not put all these chemicals in your body. So if you go buy a pie at the grocery store, even though they say it's healthy, it's going to have lots of bad stuff in it. So what's really interesting is if you get serious about this, you really can enjoy eating and still have a very healthy intake of food. So think seriously about what you put in your body. Those foods that have those inflammatory components create fight or flight chemistry, and you can't have a peaceful chemical soup in your body if you have all of this stuff there. Now, I talked earlier about getting rid of the filters and the mind viruses and those things that we have stuck in our heads from the past. So how do we get rid of that stuff? Well, there's a variety of ways that you do that, and one of them is reprogramming your language. Our language is actually a reflection of how we think. So lots of times we have these little sayings that we use, and hopefully most of you cleaned that stuff up. But lots of people say things like, I'm sick and tired of such and such. Anybody ever said that? Maybe not so much now, but in the past you might have. That gives me a pain in the whatever, neck or whatever. That kills me. Things like that word, because of our previous training, the word kill creates fight or flight reactions in our body. And even though we don't intentionally mean that we're going to kill something or somebody, the word still triggers those reactions in our body. So it's important to clean up our language. One of the big ones is, I can't afford. How many people have ever said that? Can't afford. When you say that, you are creating that outcome. So get that little phrase out of your out of your language, and say, how can I afford that? Start a thinking, creative process. How can I generate the income or the money to have that thing in my life? In my book, I use a technique called revision. I'm not going to explain that in detail here, but the process of revision is going back into the past before a traumatic event and imagining it happening in a different way. Now, this is a technique that comes from neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP. It's very, very powerful. And when you put these new images in your mind, you create new memories. And your body has the ability to select the most beneficial memory. So any traumatic events from the past, you can reprogram those memories so they no longer contaminate your present thinking. Emotional release letters. Almost everybody's had conflicts with some person in the past. This could be a childhood event, it could be a teacher, a minister, a doctor that you were afraid of, a parent, a sibling, a relative, a boss, anybody that you've had conflict with in the past. And the technique for writing emotional release letters is also detailed in my book. Also, I'd be happy to send you an email of the protocol if you prefer. But what you do is you write a letter to that person, and in the letter, you say everything you'd like to say to them if they were in front of you and they were bound and gagged and they couldn't respond and hurt you. And at the end of that letter, you say, I will no longer carry this karmic debt, physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. And then you say, I love you, I bless you, I release you, and I forgive you for everything that I think you have done to me. And these words have to be written exactly, because what we think that person has done to us is not always what they really did to us. Lots of times we magnify and we change that memory. So you write this letter, you write the endings, and then you read it out loud 3 times. And this is a real important part of it. You need to bring it out, and then you burn the letter. And that burning ceremony, you put the ashes in the earth, the smoke goes up to God or to Spirit, and you get it out of your emotional body. Now you wait a few days or a week, and then you think about that person again, and if it's completed, you will not have any of this discomfort in your chest, in your gut, or in your head. But if you still have a little bit of it, you write another letter. I had to do this 6 times one time to somebody, and after the 6th time it was completely released. So realize that sometimes these things are so big that you have to chunk them off a little bit at a time. So emotional release letters are very, very important. I had to write my mother several emotional release letters. One of the things she did when I was 5 years old, a neighbor kid got kidnapped, and my mother said, "Aren't we lucky we're poor? You guys will never get kidnapped." Now think about that. When you're 5 years old, that's very comforting. But when you're 30 years old and trying to make a living and develop some wealth, every time you get to a point where you're making some money, your brain kicks in and says, what about your kids? They might get kidnapped. So this was a program. This was a mind virus that I had to remove. And it's very important that we do that. Now there's meditation, very powerful tool in terms of removing some of these old programs. But what I want to have you do is make sure that when you're in your meditation, that you monitor your thoughts. Well, some people meditate and they're able to totally eliminate their thinking and just be in the presence of Spirit. But lots of us have little thoughts that come into our minds. And if we begin to think about the worry things while we're in meditation, we actually begin to magnify and create those outcomes. So every time you feel or hear a thought go through your head that is not in your best interest, you put up a big red stop sign in your mind and say, no, I want to think about this instead. And you think about the alternative. And you begin to process that alternative that you would rather have. Now, one of the things that's really important for peace of mind is setting goals. Try to to see where we're at here time-wise. Setting goals is an extremely important concept, and they need to be set in terms of relationships, your career, or if you're retired, what are you doing in your career or in your retirement time? Lots of people retire from one career and then pick up and start another one. They need to be set in recreation. Many people don't plan any recreation. I've met people who've never been on a vacation. It's really important that you plan some recreation time. They also need to be in your health and your finances. And so what you need to do is write lists of approximately 10 things of what you would like to experience as far as your relationships, your occupation, your recreation, family, money, and health. Now, it's very important that you think about these goals as if they are already completed. Many people think about a goal as if it's going to happen sometime in the future. So sometime I'm going to buy a new RV. Well, what you need to do is you need to think about that goal as if you are already experiencing that. So if your goal is to buy a new RV, you need to imagine that you've had it for 3 months and you're really enjoying it. So instead of thinking about it in the future, you think about it as if it's already in the past. So your goals have to actually become memories. Now think about this. This is a very, very important concept, because if you think about it in the future, you will not attract the intuitive information that's going to guide you to reach that outcome. But if you think about it as if it's already in the past, then your subconscious mind, when you go to bed at night, your subconscious mind wakes up and it goes out and it finds the deals and it meets the people and it begins to guide you to where you need to go to get that particular outcome. And so when you can create an outcome, you begin to develop peace within yourself, because you know what your future is going to look like. When you go to sleep, just before you go to sleep, you need to create a little mental movie, a little collage of everything that you want to experience in the future. And one of those things that you want to think about is how old are you going to be when you die? Sometimes when we ask people this, they say, well, I don't want to think about that. Well, of course you want to think about that, because you want to plan it. You want to live fully until you're ready to pass. Now, if you think about, well, I might end up in a nursing home, or I might end up in a wheelchair, cancel those thoughts. Put up a big red stop sign. No, I don't want to think about that. I want to live until I'm ready to pass. And I have had patients who have been totally active and vital, and they've called their family together and say, I'm going to die tonight. And they do. They die in perfect health because they're ready to transition to another incarnation. That's the way it needs to be. So we need to think about these things and plan so that you're 90 or 95 or 120. Greg Braden has done a bunch of work with looking at aging, and he says that we're programmed to live to be 120 years of age. And in Tibet, he showed us pictures of many people who were 120 years of age. The most important thing those people had was they had a feeling that they were needed, that they were doing wonderful things, that they were doing beneficial things for humanity. So when you think about these goals, think about them as if you already have them. And then think about how you're going to end your life, and what age you're going to be, and how healthy you're going to be. And play this little mental movie every night before you go to bed. So we're going to conclude this with understanding that your body chemistry is determined by what you think, by what you ingest, by what you inhale, by the hormones that are manufactured inside of your own body, but mostly by what you think. And because of what you think, then you make choices. Then you make choices about your activities, your goals. You make choices about what you're going to eat. You make choices about your exercise. You go back to golfing. A little private joke there. These are really important concepts. So we need to think clearly. We need to monitor our thoughts, particularly when we're in meditation. Because that's a time when our bodies, our minds, and our spirits are open. And so we need to very carefully monitor what we're thinking about during a meditation. So let's finish this with a brief exercise again, a heart math exercise. We were introduced to Howard Martin this summer, an amazing gentleman. If you don't know about heart math, you might want to explore that a little bit. This is a really important way to open your heart. Your heart has at least 14,000 sensory nerves that sense information. So when you get your intuitive information, sometimes it comes in through your head and through your filters. But if it comes in through your heart, it doesn't go through those old filters. And so that's why many times you get this gut feeling or this feeling in your chest and it's right. Your intuitive information is more accurate than something that comes in through your ears, eyes, taste, touch, and smell. And the reason is we have these sensory cells in our hearts that have not been contaminated by those filters. So when you practice heart math, you begin to activate those neurosensory filters, or those neurosensory cells. So let's do that. Close your eyes, feet flat on the floor. Put your hands on your knees, palms down. When you meditate palms down, this is a power position, and you're telling yourself, this is what I choose. Now there are times when we meditate palms up, and that's when we're open and receptive to spirit and incoming information. But when you want to program something, and you're stating exactly what it is that you want to do it with your palms down. So inhale, a deep breath now. And as you exhale, relax your body. And continue to breathe more slowly. When you breathe slowly, your body feels safe and secure. Place your hand over your heart. And imagine breathing through your heart. And you can imagine this as if the air is coming in through the center of your chest, going out through the center of your chest, or through your mouth and nose down into your heart, and then out from your heart through your nose and mouth. It really doesn't matter. When you breathe in this manner, you activate those 14,000 or more sensory neurons in your heart. And now think about someone that you are grateful for someone that you appreciate, something or someone that you really care about. And hold these images in your mind as you continue to breathe slowly in and out through your heart. When you practice this on a regular basis, there is coherence between your head and your heart. And you feel a peaceful contentment that you may not have ever felt before. And your DNA vibrations are balanced and healthy. And your neuron pathways are functioning the way they are supposed to.